this was my workspace. And if it rained, that literally, it didn't rain on my parade, it rained on my income. So I needed a real place. Also, if there were 3 or 4 customers that wanted the same slot, as more and more often happen, everybody gets off work around 4 or 5 o'clock, and 3 or 4 people that all want that time slot, I'm doing house calls on one person, doesn't work. So I needed a central place where I could have multiple people come to me, wait, even if it's raining, and with the raining, water damage, apples, that's not how you want to do things. So there was a studio that I was working at in the area that my friend had started using. He was using a room there, and also my ex-employer rented a room there. So I would go there to hang out with my friends and talk in between jobs. And I would wind up doing work just because that was what I did. And he worked there. Eventually, he became a manager there, and it would screw his business up. It would screw his day up if something didn't work. So I wouldn't ask for money. It's just if there was something going wrong. Like, I'm not going to sit there as somebody that got to work at Avatar Studios for a fair amount of time, learn from the best technicians in the world, and just go, sorry, I'm not in the clock, buddy. I'm not helping you. I'd help my friend out. So every now and then I'd help him with what was wrong with the place. And this studio was run by someone who had a terrible coke habit. The guy looked exactly like Adam Newman, except about 150 pounds heavier, probably a foot shorter, and reeked of cocaine. But this guy was still very good at talking people out of money. He had a studio with a beautiful lobby. The rooms themselves were actually shit, but the lobby was great. And he used the lobby, the very nice, beautiful lobby, as a means of extracting money from people that wanted to be part of the vision, the amazing vision that we have here, the beauty, the growth, expansive growth. He talked like such a scammer. He sounded like Adam Newman, but with a bit more of a Polish accent, which I'm terrible at doing. And I remember one of the guys from the corner deli showing up to the studio with $15,000 in his fucking smock to lend to this guy. There was somebody who had paid $40,000 for a year's worth of rent, and when they figured out that the studio was getting kicked out of the building in a month or two because all the money he paid in rent went up the guy's nose, not to the landlord of the building, he wound up loaning him another $70,000 it was just awful. But this guy was really good at having a business model that had made no money, but talking lots of money out of people and then putting it up his nose. So I made an agreement with him, which was, how about this? I will make sure on an official level that everything works here all the time to the standard that your clients will never call your cell phone and say, I want my money back because I couldn't use the bass amp. I want my money back because I couldn't hear myself in my headphones while I was recording. I want my money back because you said this mic is available, but it's not. By hook or by crook, I will make sure that you never get those phone calls. In exchange, I'd like for people to show up here and be able to say that they're looking for Louis Rossman to have their stuff fixed and to be seated and for me to be able to store some tools here and some screens. I'm not gonna like take actual rooms that you could charge money for. I'm just gonna take the nooks and crannies of the space that you store other stuff in. Maybe do stuff, clean, use the lobby, the table of the lobby, and every now and then, if there's a room that's not available that nobody's using, I'll use it until somebody books it. But I won't interfere with your customers, but I want the ability to use the space, and it worked. It did at the time because I couldn't afford a space because it's New York City, and if you don't have a business loan, frankly, sometimes even if you do, you can't afford the last deposit, or them saying, oh yeah, we want a 3-month deposit, but at the last 3 months of the lease, Bernstein, all the sticking the tips in kind of stuff, where you want a $51,000 deposit on a space that's an absolute dilapidated shithole. This is the way that I was getting business done, and it worked. I remember if the tube from a tube amp had a bunch of crap on it, I remember actually unscrewing it, put a piece of foam on the wall, foam on the floor, and throwing the tube over and over and over and over again for like an hour or two while I was waiting for a client until the junk moved off the filament, and plug it back in and it sounded decent again. If a tweeter blew, rather than go downstairs and pay $80 at Armin's for a new tweeter, I would take the tweeter out of the speaker and I would actually uncoil it. And then I'd find the part that melted together with rope, separated X-Acto, green, shit it all over the place, tie it back together. It was awful. It's not the way that you fix things. It was terribly, terribly awful. I remember taking stuff out of some Barricade amp and using it that was scrapped and using it to fix Barricade monitors for a tenant. It was awful. I'm very glad I did not have a YouTube channel at the time, because if I did, 10 years later, I would not be living down the shit that I did here. But I did keep my word that the studio owner would not have to spend his cocaine money on maintenance, but everything would work. I kept my word. Stuff ran there. And that's how I got to use that space. Eventually, as I discussed in the $30,000 pocket dial video, once that space wound up getting bought out by other people because the main owner spent all the money on coke and eventually does catch up to you, I wound up getting kicked out of the space. Long story short, the new owners called. They were complaining about all sorts of crap. They're saying if they want me to replace the speakers in the mix room that everybody likes with JBL Eons because they said that people want to see the big ones on the desk. No, you're talking about Yuri 813, Lansing 604Es, Westone monitors, not fucking $100 used JBL Eon speakers that are very clearly PA speakers that are made for shitty, cheap rehearsal rooms. Like, nobody wants to mix on that. Nobody wants to see them. No, just no. And I explained it as politely as I could that you're going to screw up the studio, ruin revenue, that the place did not fail because all the rooms sucked so that bad. You know, they weren't great rooms. They failed because the owner put the income up his nose. And I remember getting off the phone with him and telling the woman I was dating at the time all the reasons that this didn't make sense. You know, you guys sell drugs. The people, you know, that took the studio over from him were traffic and all sorts of shit. And I don't tell you how to sell your drugs. You do not tell me, after working at Avatar for about a year, how a studio mix room is supposed to look. Just saying. You're trying to get me to put cheap piece of shit rehearsal studio speakers in a mix room. They're not even going to fit in there. They're not going to fit on the stands, anything. Just no. And unfortunately, my phone, since I was cleaning my bathtub and I had water on my hand and my Galaxy S4G at the time was not liquid resistant, pocket, you know, kind of pocket dialed him. And he heard all of this and he had me on speaker with the other guy and they said all sorts of stuff, like all sorts of nonsensical threatening BS. They never followed through on. But needless to say, my arrangement with that place was done. So I wound up moving next door to a place called Planet to Planet, and John Grossbard was the owner of that. And now, I couldn't afford a real office or a real store because, again, they want a lot of stuff that I can provide. This guy did. He said $3,300. The space was pretty large. I don't know, you know, it's probably around total with the lounge and lobby, probably around 900 to 1,000 square feet, but it was a basement. And, you know, you had to walk through the freight elevator, past Club Rebel's trash dumpster that smelled and looked like the worst effing refuse you've seen in your life. It's a club in Midtown. And then you had to go to this very large door at the end that looks like something bad is going to happen to you if you open it. You can see this in all my Yelp reviews from 2011, by the way. Go downstairs, where it smells like a bunch of weed and crap and coke and all sorts of shit. Make a left, go down this dark, unlit corridor that you can barely see, and at the end of it is going to be a very dimly lit, shitty wooden door with a little sheep logo printed on a zebra printer. And that's me. Why'd I do that? Because I could share that space with two other people. So my monthly effective cost was closer to $1,500 to $2,000 just to maintain a place in Midtown, and you didn't want a security deposit, and you didn't want the last month. It's not last security, but they try to get 4 to 6 months out of you. It was 1 month. So it was what I could afford. And John Grossbard, the owner of the place, was the one that used to say, if I made this place any nicer, you couldn't afford it all the time. But it was the truth. If you made it any nicer, I could not afford it. Or the other thing he used to say that I used to love it, it's probably something you guys did. Like with the first day that we moved in, it was filled with bed bugs. And he said it's probably something you guys brought in. No. No. We worked next door for 3.5 years. No bed bugs. We move in here for 1 day. Bed bugs, John. Bed bugs. But moving on from that, I worked out of that space for a really long time. And I had to leave that space because we were growing. I couldn't share a space with other people. I got to a point where I realized business may do better if I had a dedicated space just for me, where I could install my own lighting. That didn't have to be the studio vibe lighting thing. I'm not sharing it with other people that work there that also got kicked out of the space next door for other reasons. What if my customers didn't have to walk past a garbage dumpster for Club Rebel while they're on the way to my place? Maybe that would increase the likelihood that virtually any female customer would actually show up rather than just fearing that someone's going to beat them over the head with a baseball bat and do terrible things to them. We actually had a lot more female customers start showing up after we left that space. I can only imagine how many people they lost from just seeing that and going, nope, not walking down that freight elevator. I think somebody even mentioned it. They said, female, midtown, dark, unlit freight elevator entrance with just no. I usually don't do this, but I made an exception, which I appreciate. And I eventually found this store. It took me 6 months of looking to find this store. I know a lot of unscrupulous realtors. Same story as what I was recording. It's just I wasn't recording it at the time. And all the people that said, you're never going to do better than this. This is all you can get. You're never going to do better than this. What do you expect? Blah, blah, blah. Always kind of like saying, you're trying to put me down because I only had the 3,000 to 4,000 range to spend. And one of them showed me a space that, I'm never going to find better than this. It was close to about $9,000. And I think it's used by an eyeglass place right now on the corner of 10th Street and First Avenue. And right after he said that, the same way that happened with all the other shit realtors, that all the people that said you're not going to find better, you can't do better, you shouldn't expect better. I walk down the fucking block from 10th and First to 11th and First, and I see an empty space. And I decide to bother the super, and I bother the person in the A1 music store next door before they went out of business, where Handsome Dad's Candy Shop was also went out of business. And I asked them about it, and I find this place. And it's available. So I asked for details. It's owned by some seemingly 100-year-old Korean man who's very strict, who doesn't want it. Like, no restaurant, no bar, no club, no this, no that, no you. But the idea of a shy, socially awkward, strange, humble, soft-spoken computer repair person, yeah, sure, I'll take that. And he did. And it was interesting. So I moved into that place, and he wanted a $10,000 500 deposit, which, well, ouch. And, right now, it sucks, but fine. Back then, that was, okay, do I really need the second kidney kind of thing? So what I did to afford it, because I couldn't afford that, was I wound up selling a bunch of repair services on eBay at a price below what it was that most would usually sell it for, even outside of New York City. So if a service was typically $300, I sold it for $140. If something was typically $450, I sold it for like $149. And this was before the market was like it is now. Now the market is put together in such a way where if you go on eBay, you'll see people doing board repair on iPhones for like $20. What kind of quality you get for $20? Who the hell knows? But people are offering like, backlight fuse replacements for like $10, $15. It's just, it's obscene. But back then, in 2010 and 2011, even though there was competition, it wasn't like it is right now. So there was still a chance to say, okay, instead of making this much profit, I'll settle for making this much profit, and many more people will buy the service. Like right now, everybody's working at this much profit. So eBay repair profit is just buy. But eBay is a very price-sensitive way of selling things. So in my store, if I go change the price on something from, let's say Sonny and I are both $300 or something, and I change it to $290, I'm not going to see any change in the people that show up. Maybe if I lower it a lot. But on eBay, if everybody else is $300 and I go to $299.99, because eBay is this very price-sensitive medium where so many people are searching by the lowest price, very few people go to eBay because of brand recognition, quality, that type of thing. It's like, I want to get something cheap. That's what eBay's for. If I lower the price by that just 1 cent and it gets me to show up first, bam, I'm going to get a lot more business. I remember this in 2011. I took a B156XW02 that every other company sold for $52.58, and I sold for $52.56. Just going from 53 to 52.56 would take me from around the 10 to 12 sales a day area to the 80 to 100 sales a day area of that part. It's that price sensitive. So what I did is I put up a listing and said, here, we'll do this screen repair or this board repair or whatever, but 6 to 12 week turnaround. Not 1 or 2 days, not 1 or 2 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks, if you're lucky. And if you want to save money, here's the way to do it. And surprise, a lot of people actually still did it. So what I did is, since PayPal didn't want to release the money on an early account at the time, what I did in order to get them to release the money is I delivered the merchandise. So they would not deliver release the money until 3 days after the device showed up, or whatever you sold showed up. So what I would do when I sold the repair services, the moment I sold it, I first class mail tracking a little pamphlet on our company. We talk about the difference between grade A and A- screens, and we talk about what the 9 means on an LG box versus a 5, versus nothing being there versus an A. And we talk about what you can expect from our services and so on and so forth. There's a little pampered. I explained my service. Oops. They saw my house got delivered. They released money. Oops. And then, okay, there's two things. Firstly, a bunch of people bought the service up front. It gave me a pot of money in order to pay the security deposit. But the other thing that it did is, if I kept it going for a while, is as long as I was willing to run a Ponzi scheme on my time, it gave me a bit of capital. So this allowed me to get a loan that no bank would be willing to give me, which was great. So I had this capital coming in, and I kept that going for quite a while. I think I stopped it in around mid-2013. Around mid-2013 is when I cut off eBay. So it took me about a year and a half to get rid of this. But what it did was I would do my normal work for the store around, between the hours of 10 and 8. And then after